First item would be public comment. Members of the public may raise issues or concerns not listed on the regular agenda during this time. To participate, please sign in before the meeting begins. Speakers will be called in the order they are signed in. When speaking, citizens must address all the comments and begin by stating their name, address, or single-member district and limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do. We have two. The first one will be Sharon Hoffman.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Hoffman. I live in Wall. I wanted to address two issues with the shelter and pause. One is taking back animals that are adopted out that need to be returned. I emailed Morgan this week and she assured me that the dogs are being returned since the intake policy changed. But I'm concerned about the dogs that are adopted to people outside of the city limits. Those, I think, are not being accepted. And there's a decent number of those animals. So I wish that you could revisit your policies and work on taking back all the dogs that you adopt out that need to be returned so that they don't end up on the street. Another issue is the dumping of cats all over town. Feral cats taken back to their own colony might have a chance. They might be accepted back, they might not. Feral cats taken to a colony that is not theirs have very little chance. They'll be run off, killed, starved, whatever. And pet cats dumped into this neighborhoods have virtually no chance. So please make the priority of the animals in your care their humane treatment, not trying to reach some unattainable live release rate. Please treat the animals in your care humanely. That's what I ask.
Okay, Juliana.
Hi, Juliana, single member District 3. At the April ASEC meeting, Morgan, you made an undertaking to get back to me regarding the dog brought to the shelter on the 3rd of February that was microchipped to a city address, albeit it was found wandering on a person's property outside of city limits. The dog was refused entry to the shelter and the owner was given no assistance. When I raised this at the last meeting, you said we were going to discuss ownership at this meeting, and whilst I recognise that's on the agenda...
Excuse me, Juliana, I can barely hear you.
Do you want me to start again?
Just me.
Okay, I'll try and do it shorter. At the April meeting, Morgan, you undertook to get back to me about the dog that was brought to the shelter on the 3rd of February, having been found on the property of a person who lived outside of city limits. The dog was microchipped to an address within city limits, but the finder was told there was nothing that the shelter could do. The dog was refused admission. Managed intake was not mentioned. Closed intake wasn't mentioned. The person was given no help and was obliged to leave the shelter with the dog. And I wondered if you had got an update on why that happened. I sent you an email. You emailed me and asked for the details, and I sent you the details. Do I get a response or just a... Okay.
This is your time to make public comment.
My public comment is that I would like a response from you that you made an undertaking to provide to me at the last meeting, indicating that you would address that at this meeting.
If I may, board members, you do not have to answer questions if you do not want to. Thank you.
I understand that this is a section of public comments, but when the acting director of Family and Neighbourhood Services makes an undertaking to a member of the public that they will address the comments at the next meeting, I would expect that to take place. Thank you.
No more public comment.
Okay, since there's no more public comment, moving on to consent agenda. Does anyone on the committee have an item on the consent agenda they would like to discuss? Not hearing any response, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's second. Okay. So with a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. So we'll move on to the regular agenda. Item A, discussion and consideration of monthly shelter performance for April 2025, presentation by Shelter Advisor Haley Gullion. Ginn? Sorry.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. I will be, sorry, I can't think, doing the April 2025 monthly performance. We had 256 new arrivals last month. That is up from the 220 of March. 131 adoptions or transferred, which is very similar to the prior month as well, which is amazing. 30 redemptions by owner. I think that was identical to March 2025 as well. 15 wildlife releases, 81 deceased, 234 left in custody, all species, dogs, cats, and I believe there were several livestock in there. We did have a 68.48% live release rate, which is a little lower than what we all strive for, but we do try every day to do our best. Of the 81 deceased, 72 were dogs, which we'll break down here in a second, 7 were cats, and 2 were other species, wildlife, livestock, all that. Of the 81 deceased, let me go back. So 72 dogs. Of the 72 dogs, or is this total, Morgan? Total, okay. 29 were aggressive or had some sort of behavioral issue, 17 were sick or injured, and 35 were for capacity. This month was the first month that we have seen capacity be on there for reasons for euthanasia. There were 421 field services cases. Of those, 256 were just stray response. 66 were enforcement and rechecks, whether that be spay-neuter, fence inspections, and all encompassing that. 60 were wildlife, whether that be relocation, deceased animals, and all of that. 19 were bite investigations, which is down from last month. I believe last month was 26, and now we're at 19. 15 of those were transports, whether that be wildlife relocation or if we transport an animal for another reason. And then 5 were owner-released seized intake of all those cases. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
When you say your live release is 68%, what does that mean?
So of the animals that were in our, of the animals that left the facility, whether that be adoptions, transfers, euthanasias, 68% of them left alive. The other 32% did not leave alive.
And that was because some of them were euthanized because of aggressiveness, some of them because of sick or injury?
Yes, ma'am.
And I forgot the third category.
It was sick, injured, aggressive, or capacity. And this, like I said, this was the first one.
So we put down this month, last month, 35 dogs just because we didn't have enough room?
Yes, ma'am.
And I know y'all have answered this question for me before, and maybe Jen can answer it. How do you decide which 35 are going to go down?
Right now, we're doing it based on length of stay.
Okay, and what is the length of stay?
I
how long do they get to stay before they
as
come?
of today, I believe right now, our longest stay dog has been here around 3 months.
3 months, okay.
Yes.
And the shortest one?
Well,
This
we
morning.
probably got dogs in, 5 minutes ago. It's a constant.
I don't have my hearing aids in. I can't hear you.
The shortest length of stay would be the dog that arrived right before we came to this meeting.
So they
30
euthanized
minutes.
a dog today?
No. She's saying, so the longest
length of
stay
stay.
is probably about 3 months, and the shortest length of stay is probably the dog that came in today. We're euthanizing from the dog that's been here 3 months, not the dog that just came in today, if it's a healthy, happy, friendly dog.
Okay. Okay, and then I know that the partner is, with the city looks at the sick or the injured, right? To see if they can be rehabilitated, or if they are just sick or injured, they're just put down.
I mean, if there's a dog that's hit by a car that's, barely breathing, barely conscious, we will try to coordinate with PAWS, but sometimes we've had dogs that we just need to euthanize now. In our professional opinion, making it wait to try to get it, to try to have someone come and take it to the vet, have a vet. We have to call the vet, see who's available, and get it to there. It suffers, and then it still is ended up being euthanized for its
Pretty
injuries.
advanced medical. So anything, so we treat basic medical under our vet services agreement on site. So things, so minor illnesses like bordetella in dogs, upper respiratory infection in cats, something as simple as ringworm. Those are things we're treating on site. So if there are 17 animals euthanized for sick or being injured, that's something pretty advanced beyond resources for treatment. So anything advanced that PAWS can take on, they do. These were animals that were beyond what either organization could take on.
Okay, so there's no budget line item to pay for those injured animals to see a vet for more serious injuries, or it's just a policy decision?
Not on the city side. There's no line item. We have a line item for a contract with a veterinarian and a line item for basic medical protocols that are approved by the veterinarian, but that is for run-of-the-mill, mild illnesses and injuries.
Okay, so if a dog gets hit by a car and y'all go pick it up and it's got a broken leg,
We reach out to Contra Valley Paws and see if they'll provide medical support.
okay.
Yeah, it's more, I meant more of like the dogs are actively like taking their last breaths, are the ones that will, we still reach out to Paws to see if in the works, sometimes we can rush them to the vet. But like I said, sometimes we've had dogs that they just need to be euthanized there. It's not,
Okay, that's
humane
fine,
to
I'm
keep
just trying to
them.
understand.
Yeah, no, but we do reach out to Paws for
How
any
you make
advanced
the
and
decision and who makes the decision and how injured they have to be before the decision's made. I'm just trying to understand.
no,
your
It does
process.
require 2 people to sign off on any euthanasia, and for the 17 sick or injured, 2 of those were wildlife. They were raccoons that were injured, and the rest were dogs. As we get into kitten season, you'll see a number of cats as well, but that's not all dogs.
Okay,
It's all species.
okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
Moving on to item B.
Roger, we have public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I have 2 public comments, and we're going to start with Juliana.
My public comment that is not framed as a question is that it's very difficult looking at the statistics put up on the screen for people not on the committee to recognise how many are dogs versus puppies that are euthanized or that are transported, and how many are cats versus kittens under 1 year. And I wondered if there was room for a further breakdown on those statistics.
Okay, next comment, Jenny Wilson.
Good afternoon. I'm Jenny Wilson with Contra Valley Paws, and I just wanted to take a minute to kind of present our activity as the contracted vendor to the city for providing adoption services for the month of April. So for the month of April, we had 139 local adoptions. We had 37 animals that were transferred out. That was either through local rescues, state rescues. We did not have any international rescues for the month of April. We transferred in 161 animals from COSA. I think their report reflected 131. We did have a brief moment in time where Pet Point was down, and so as they were being transferred out and in, it caused a little bit of a glitch, so we're off by 30, but as far as actual head count, we took in 161 from COSA. 184 animals were in PAWS care as of the end of the month, which would be April 30th. 61 of those animals were in foster care. That's 54 dogs and 7 cats. We have a lot more canine foster homes than we do for cats. Unfortunately, in this month, we had 0 referrals for our intake diversion program. The intake diversion program is where if there is an owner that would like to surrender a pet prior to the changes in the intake policy, those were referred to pause for counseling. And in 2024, we were able to divert 500 animals from the shelter. But since the changes in policy, those counseling appointments are no longer required, and so those animals are just intaked at the shelter. We have 33 animals currently, well, as of April 30th, 33 animals were enrolled in our Second Chance program, and that is our Responsible Pet Rehoming Assistance Program. Those are animals that we don't physically take into our facility, but we assist them in finding new homes. So it's a fabulous alternative to surrendering a pet to a shelter. So if someone knows they're moving or going through a divorce, change of whatever change that would prompt them to rehome their pet, we can assist them in doing that. We have 16 pets at this time enrolled in Mommy and Me. May's report's going to show a dramatic increase in that. The Mommy and Me program is geared towards mom dogs and puppies. And so if it is an owner that is wanting to keep the mother dog, we fix the mother dog, vaccinate her, as long as the owner will agree to keep the puppies until they are healthy enough to be weaned off and adopted. And then we can ensure those dogs are adopted, spayed, neutered, and vaccinated before they leave. So that's an excellent program to try to keep puppies out of the shelter. We did assist with 13 emergencies during the month of April. And so you were speaking to the euthanasia. A lot of times we get animals that have been hit by a car where the injuries are not anything that can be treated with the anticipation of having a quality of life. And there were a couple of instances where we had female dogs that come in that had advanced tumors in their mammary chain, and those dogs that had to be euthanized. But we did assist with 13 of those. When we do assist with those, they come under our PAWS umbrella. We transfer them over to us. As soon as their stray hold is over, we place them in foster care. We don't wait for the stray hold to be over before we treat. We go ahead and treat, and if an owner comes forward, we work with them. If they can pay us back, great. If they can't, we have programs for that as well, but we always try to reunite them if they're injured. And then we had 74 animals in our dog adoption center at the end of the month. And I just wanted to present those numbers to y'all so you can know what our activity was. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do y'all take any in, do people come and directly surrender to you, or do they have to go through the city?
Tatan, can you please use your mic? Thank you.
Do y'all take any animals in directly, or do they all come through the city?
It's a case-by-case basis, so we have pledged our resources to saving the shelter pet. But if an owner comes forward with an injured animal or an animal that's fixing to give birth, we will immediately take them into our care to divert them from going into the shelter. We also, our second chance is directly from the public or from a shelter referral. So those animals don't have to go into the shelter. We can just enroll them in our program, and the same with Mommy and Me. But as far as taking immediate possession, we're very limited because we do operate at capacity, because if we have an empty kennel, we're going to run next door to the shelter to get a pet to fill that kennel so that we can try to keep euthanasia as low as possible.
Okay. With the second chance, once they're enrolled in that second chance, are there pictures posted anywhere so that if somebody comes in looking for, well, that's for people that are surrendering, correct?
Now, second chance is an owned pet that
Okay.
they're working to rehome. And yes, we put pictures on social media. They're included in our animal inventory on our Pet Point. And then we have special adoption events for fosters and second chance dogs once a month.
Okay, I wasn't thinking right. The Mom and Me, when you say 16, is that the moms and the puppies counted, or just the moms?
No, that's the puppies.
Okay.
And we see a huge increase in that in the May numbers. But the moms generally in the Mommy and Me are staying with the owner. It's an accidental pregnancy because the owner didn't have their pet fixed. And so instead of them doing free to good homes, we're encouraging them to bring the puppies through to us so that we can break that cycle, get the mom dog fixed, to get the puppies fixed and adopted.
Do y'all offer anything for pets that are pregnant before they have their puppies?
If it is a viable pregnancy and and it's time for delivery, our veterinarians will not abort that pregnancy.
But if it's-
There is a lot of times where we'll have an animal on the table that we don't know is pregnant, and unfortunately during the spay, that pregnancy is aborted.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And much of that is because of the increased risk to the mother dog if it is a late pregnancy. Yeah. Thank you.
I have one more brief question.
Yes, sir.
When you arrange for the long distance transfers, or you're going to set up transports, I know you guys do that all the time. Do you have like a clearinghouse you work through, or is it a direct contact list that y'all have developed?
As far as our receiving rescues,
Yeah, where for instance, if you're gonna relocate 5 dogs.
we work directly with the receiving rescue. So our adoption team works directly with the adoption team of the receiving rescue. And most of the time, if we're transporting, those dogs are going directly into either an adoptive home or a foster home. I don't think we're currently working with a rescue that has a facility, quote unquote, so it's a really ideal situation because they're going from the shelter into either a foster home or a home for adoption.
But the contact list is developed internally.
Yes.
You
We
don't.
don't use, occasionally we will use a third-party transporter, which would be a professional that drives them, but we do not use a third party or a middleman for placement. We are in direct contact with where the animal is going, and we're very fortunate that we get photographs and updates on every animal that we place.
Very good, thank you. Any other comment?
No more public comment.
Okay, moving on then to item B. Discussion and consideration of citations issued by the Animal Services officers, presented by Interim Director of Neighborhood and Family Services, Morgan Shenwigan.
So this item was requested last meeting, so we have it before y'all today. In April 2025, we had 30 citations issued by Animal Services officers. That is in line with I'm so sorry, how many RTOs did we have last month? 30. So it's each of those returned to owners, and whether that was across the front counter in the shelter or in the field as we got a dog home. Each of those citations were for failure to spay neuter. That is, the ASOs are directed to cite for that first. If it's a repeat offender, if the animal is spay neutered, then we would move on to other violations as well. For example, failure to rabies vaccinate, failure to microchip, or dog at large. Those are the most frequent violations that Animal Services officers are seeing. And so of the 30 citations that were issued, 4 were paid in full. So they either entered a plea of no contest or guilty and just simply paid the fine. They are subject to additional citations, and they are in the queue for follow-up there. 8 are on a payment plan as they are paying out that citation, and 18 are still pending. Generally, so when you receive a citation, if anybody's just been lucky enough to get like a speeding ticket, it's a very similar process where you receive the citation and you simply must appear before the municipal court within 14 days. And if you fail to do so, then it would be sitting in this 18 that are still pending. It could also include a small number of folks that have asked, for example, for a trial or a jury trial or further review of their citation. They would still be in that queue of pending. But the majority of that is individuals who have simply failed to appear within that 14 days. And so that could yield additional fines and or warrants. We do sometimes see individuals that we have cited for failure to spay neuter have a warrant issued for them, and that is the court's process. And so as we get updated information of where they are in the process, if they are still pending, we can't continue to cite them for the same violation. It has to have its due process through the court. But if it has been closed out, like these 4 that have been paid in full, we can do that additional citation follow-up.
Morgan,
Do we
do
have
you
public
have
comment?
I have a question. Can I ask a question? Or no? Just, do you have anybody that once they get there and they find out they're going to be fined, do they refuse to take their dog with them?
Sure, our aim is to structure it in such a way where you've done all the paperwork, you've done your payment, we've got your dog queued up and ready to go, and then the animal services officers have a conversation with them, so they're literally about to walk out the door with their pet. We don't want to, withhold someone's animal for them. We just want them to take seriously that they've got to take action for this. And we encourage them to, go ahead and buy a low-cost voucher or go ahead and schedule the appointment so that when they show up at the court to enter their plea, they can show that they're making some progress towards that. And so we try to use it as just a communication and an education and a way to build rapport, but that it's a rarity that someone says, oh, I'm getting a ticket, well, then I'm going to leave my dog. I mean, they've already, at that point, paid the impound and boarding fees. If it's across the front counter, they've already registered the microchip, and we have a shelter assistant standing next to them with their dog with a leash saying, go ahead and sign this ticket so I can hand you your dog so you can leave.
Okay. The ones that are on payment plans, do y'all set those up, or do they go through the court and they do that? Okay. Okay.
What's the standard fine? Over and above all of
for
the
just-
other requirements?
Just the spay neuter violation, is that what you're
Yeah, is
asking?
there a-
Yeah, okay.
It's a Class C misdemeanor for any other ordinance violation, so it's the same ticket, the same fine, the same fee structure set by the court for any of those.
How much is that? Roughly, we don't know?
It has so many variables that come with it. So if you simply plead guilty and pay the fines and fees, I could get you that information, but there's so many ways that it can go. If you take it to a jury trial, a jury can assess and say, we fine you $1 plus court costs. So it's not, you also can be declared indigent and the ticket thrown out because you don't have funds to pay. So it's through a very developed court process that we can't weigh in on or change or advise on.
I'm just thinking that maybe boilerplate information might be important in developing the public education plan that the subcommittee's working on. Sort of put it out there to where, okay, this is a penalty.
Right.
As opposed to, because all of the things you just described, although appropriate and accurate, they're kind of nebulous.
And it is.
Yeah.
And so we do say to folks, I'd much rather you spend $200 on spay neutering your pet than paying it to the court. No, disrespect to the court, but this isn't about money. This is about compliance. And so we would much rather, take those efforts, take those initiatives, and come to the court with that information, because you are at risk of being assessed these fines and fees.
Yeah, my point to that is that in the public education side of this, the simpler that we keep it, the more people will pay attention to it ahead of getting caught.
And unfortunately, it's not a simple process, because if it does escalate to like a failure to appear and a warrant, I mean, there are individuals that are ultimately incarcerated for this. Like it can run the gamut from a jury assigns you a $1 fee or you're incarcerated for some time. So unfortunately, it's not a simple process for us to simplify in public education. I can get you some examples and show, if someone pled this and their circumstances were this, it would be that. But there are a million ifs and thens, not a million, but it very much depends on your unique circumstances.
Okay, all right, so it's not going to ever be as simple as saying, okay, if you don't spay and neuter your dog, it's going to cost you $250.
Never. That's never that simple.
Well, but there is a range of punishment. It's a Class C misdemeanor.
Right.
Right.
So it's you can say up to $500 in fines and court costs. And the court costs are going to be levied with whatever the particular offense is. But it certainly is within a range of punishment, and you can say that. It may not be $500, but that's the maximum that you could get.
Could cost you that
Could
much.
cost you that much. And you're right, when you go to trial, a jury could say something else. But if you go in there and you just plead out to the judge also has that discretion. But still, you can advise them that the maximum punishment and the range of punishment is from $1 to $500.
There you go.
I think that would be probably good information to give someone. And the second thing is, you can't go to jail for a Class C misdemeanor unless you fail to appear. And you're going to jail for the failure to appear, not because of the offense. Class C misdemeanor is
That's
not
what I was
jailable
describing,
offense.
yeah.
Well, you said go to jail, and I was like, no, you wouldn't go to jail on a,
For the failure to appear, yes.
yeah. If you fail to appear and you got a warrant for failure to appear, you could go to jail for that. But you're not really going to jail because you didn't spay or neuter. You went to jail because you didn't comply by coming to court, or you failed that way. But that might confuse people if you say, oh, well, you're going to go to jail if you don't spay or neuter your
I'm sorry if I
dog.
misspoke. That wasn't my intention at all, and it's not what we say to people.
Okay. I'm just clarifying what I heard.
Coming from a judge.
Thank you.
We have 2 public comments, and we'll start with Sharon.
Okay.
I have a question, and I realize you don't have to answer it, but I'm just curious. Of the 30 citations issued in April, it's May 15th, 4 were paid, some were pending, some have a payment plan. How many of those animals are spayed and neutered right now? Do you know?
We don't get that information. We follow up after the case has closed.
So as far as you know, none of them are?
Correct.
Okay.
They are put in the lineup to recheck.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once they're,
They're subject to further citations.
yes,
For continued failure.
so they're,
Unless they've proven an exemption. You know, if they come to the court and they prove an exemption, that would be, we would just need a copy of that to upload and close it out on our side.
Is there some type of timeline where once they're found guilty by the municipal judge in order to pay a fine or court cost or whatever the sanction is for failing to spay and neuter, is there a timeline that starts then that says, okay, you've got 30 days to get this animal spayed or neutered, or is there any follow-up, or do you just wait and bust them again when?
No, it's follow-up in our office, and so we have the log of every unaltered pet that has been returned to owner, and so we have identified those that have already received their first citation, are in the queue for a second citation, and the animal services officer that's assigned to desk duty for the day, that's their primary job, is to work through those that are needing the follow-up for additional failure to spay neuter tickets.
So that person's put on notice. Not only are you going before the judge and you're going to have this sanction or punishment, but you've got X days and they're going to follow up to make sure you've complied with the law in the aftermath of this case.
Well, the statute of limitation is 2 years. Our backlog is over a year old right now, so I don't know that we can say that there's a specific timeline, but if anybody has an unaltered pet that they got a ticket for in the last 2 years, they can be cited again.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the procedure. For these people in particular that have actually been caught and gone to
Right.
court.
It's just a matter of staffing. And so we did reorg a position and hire a fifth animal services officer, which allowed us to have essentially like a desk duty officer like police does, where we have somebody in-house Monday through Friday to assist with writing those tickets readily. Because ordinarily, if you walk in the door and you're like, hi, I'm here to pick up my dog Fluffy, I'm going to have to call for an animal services officer. They might be on a complicated call. I might have you waiting in the lobby for 30 minutes to pick up your pet while I'm waiting on an officer to get in town to cite you. So now we have somebody readily available right there for that efficiency, and they're working through that backlog of failure to spay neuter. And that's something we implemented May 1st.
Okay, and so if they go to a local vet, like they get the ticket, they go before Judge Daniel or whichever judge they're going before, and he says, okay, you didn't do this, you're found guilty, here's your fine, here's your court cost, go get your dog spayed. And they can then go to any vet, right, in town?
Yeah. Or out of town. I
do
mean,
those
whatever works.
Okay, do those vets have any kind of, I should probably ask you this, do they have any kind of communication or any kind of reporting where they can say, yeah, this person received a citation for this offense and now they have complied with your requirement? Do they, I mean, I'm not making more work for them, I'm just wondering if there is any type
No,
of.
it's it's dependent on the
Self-reporting?
owner. Yeah, they have to report, or
Self-reporting.
they are at risk of
Yeah, they just
additional
come to us
citations.
and ask sometimes for a letter saying, I've got this appointment scheduled, I need to go before the court, can you write me this letter that says so?
And we're happy to have that, and so we'll just mark our calendar. Okay, you've got an appointment scheduled for June 1st. We're going to call the vet clinic and confirm that you do have an appointment scheduled for June 1st, and then we're going to call on June 2nd and make sure you actually attended that appointment.
Thank you.
But it is on the onus of the pet owner to do that, and if they don't, they just get more tickets until they do.
And I wanted to make a comment that, you know, I always believe that education is certainly something that's going to help people. A lot of them just don't understand that that was part of the agreement, that you live within the city limits. These are the things that you need to get done for your patient, for your pet. And someone had recently sent an email to animal providers, and was a nice
Graphic.
It
A
was
nice graphic to-
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
nice
share.
graphic that I, you know, was able to print out and put in the room. So hopefully other veterinary hospitals and other pet providers have done the same thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's some of the work of the barriers subcommittee that they recommended.
Good.
So I'm glad that it was well received, at least on
my
your
part,
side.
yeah.
And so, yeah, we're sending it to vet clinics, pet retailers, pet trainers, groomers, anybody really who touches animals. And
Mm-hmm.
so if it's something that they can share with their clients or post in their
I just have it
lobby.
posted, yeah.
So we have kind of a slate of hot topics that we'd like to continue to share in that way. So we reach more than just our social media audience, and we capture someone's attention while they're thinking about their pet. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more public comment. Juliana?
With regard to the statute of limitations, can you hear me? Yeah. Is 2 years, and you said the backlog is over a year, but we don't know how much over a year. It could be up to 2 years or past. Do those cases just then fall over?
So the team worked through January 2024 yesterday. They completed that backlog, and that's submitted, and so they'll continue to work through that. So that's just since implementation since May 1st. So that was the current backlog, and it's being addressed.
So the current backlog is over a year. I'm trying to figure out if cases just fall over because they don't get processed within the 2-year statute of limitations.
I guess it could happen previously, but since the current backlog is January 2024, December 2023 had been handled, had been filed on November 2023. For example, so the current backlog was as of January 2024. All prior months had been followed up on.
But I think you said that had happened previously, that the case...
Sure,
had-
many years ago, sure. Yeah, the spay-neuter ordinance was adopted in 2014, and this process was not used at that time, so...
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. When you talk about the backlog, what process? Have those people gone to court?
It's this,
Already?
yeah. So
And
they
then
have been cited one
filed?
time.
Okay, and then they've already paid their fine. They're not waiting on, they don't have a warrant issued on them. Y'all are just doing their rechecks.
They may.
The year.
They
Is
may
that what
have
you're
a
talking
warrant.
about?
They may have something they're working through with court. They may have a payment plan that they're still working through, but they're still in violation.
Okay,
They still have an unaltered pet without a proven exemption.
okay. And those are ones just, you haven't recited, is what you're saying?
We are reciting them.
But the backlog, that's
The
what
backlog
the
is the
people are waiting to be
reciting
recited?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Morgan, what stimulates a recheck? Is that just because a certain amount of time has passed and you're going through the list, or is there any particular action that would cause you to do that?
When you say recheck, can you clarify?
Well, let's just say if you have someone who's of the 18 they're still pending, for example, and there's a spay and neuter on that, and then you want to follow up to make sure that spay and neuter has been completed, or someone has an appointment or something like that. what would cause Animal Services to research that? What would stimulate? And maybe I'm using the wrong term by recheck, but.
Yeah, because recheck is a case like made in the field. It's the 66 enforcement and rechecks. So that's animal services officers going out like, hey, I gave you this much time to fix your fence, or I gave you this much time to get your dog off a tether, or whatever it is.
Well, that's where I'm going.
Yeah,
Is
so,
it-
but
is
for,
it-
but for
is there-
spay-neuter citations, it's, I mean, every single one is in the queue for further review. That's what stimulates it, is the pending list. Each month, we run the list for unaltered pets, send it
That's
to
what
the
I was
animal
looking
services officers and say, please follow up. If still unaltered, file a complaint for failure to spay neuter that they are still in violation.
Okay.
So it's a monthly document that's created.
All right, and the animal services officers, that falls under their purview, or is it?
Yeah, it has to be a sworn officer of the court, and that's our animal services officers.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more public comment on item B?
No, no more public comment.
Moving on to item C, discussion and consideration of veterinary services agreement. Presentation by Interim Assistant Director, Neighborhood Family Services, Angela Bloss.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angela Bloss, Interim Assistant Director, the one who yells at you for using your mic over there. Okay, I'm going to go over the veterinary services agreement with y'all. First of all, it is a professional services agreement that we've had for a while. They provide us with a license to buy controlled substances and provide veterinary services on site. We purchase vaccines, medications, supplies with that license. The veterinary services agreement also allows for monthly inspections, just a walkthrough of the facility to check on any problem animals that Haley informs them about, and insists in regulatory proceedings. So, yes, okay. So it must be a doctor of veterinary medicine, and it must be licensed through the Texas State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners. So currently, our veterinary services agreement, we did receive a written notice of 60 days that they will be terminating that agreement with us. So we are looking at publishing a request for proposal through our purchasing department. After that is complete, we will have a review committee to go over the proposals that we receive. Myself, and Morgan will be on that, and we have asked Chairperson Roger Horton to be involved with that process as well. We will review submissions, and then we will take that to City Council to review the contract with the new vendor. Oh, and I went back. Will you turn your mic on, please? It's okay. It's okay.
How much is that contract? Is it a variable based on experience or years of licensing, or is it just a flat amount?
So we will submit a request for proposal. So we will submit what we would like to see in that contract, and then people will submit their proposal. So it doesn't have to include everything that we are asking for. It can only include certain things. And then from there, we can go through negotiations on what that looks like. So the pricing will vary dependent on what they propose they will do for us, and then we will negotiate price. And let's say they want to do A through F, but we also really need X done. So then we can say, okay, great, you can do these, but we're going to need this as well. And then we just go into negotiations.
Okay, on your basic contract, or the submission that you're going to, the request for proposal that you're going to publish, you will outline certain requirements, a minimum. How much time does the vet that's over the shelter, how much time do they personally spend out there?
Well, it depends. It goes on a case-by-case basis. So they're out there monthly, and I would say...
Like one time a month?
Yeah, that's required in the contract to come once a month for a tour. So they come more than that, but just for the tour alone, they're probably there about, I would say about an hour, give or take. And then they will come out for certain circumstances medically to look at things and make sure that we are doing the medications and stuff appropriately.
So they work 12 days a year?
No,
No,
they do the
they're-
monthly tour monthly, but they generally come about weekly. The current contract, we pay $810 a month. Then because we're not publishing it as like a request for bid, the request for proposal could come in at much higher than that, much lower than that. And I would say they work less than 20 hours a month. But certainly in times of, higher volume, they can work more. In slower season, they can work less, but I would say it's on average 20 hours a month. But they also have to hold all of our licenses, and they do have to renew those. So for example, this veterinarian places their veterinary license on file with the vet supply companies for us to use. So that's something they already have, but they also hold a separate standalone DEA license for us to order our controlled substances, and that's quite pricey. And so they're required to pay for that, hold that, renew it, and ensure all compliance and inspections with that. So it's more than just the veterinarian's time. They have direct expenses as well for providing this service.
Yeah, and they have liabilities. I mean, they want to be cautious with what they put their license over. Do they do the training for the people who work for the city that euthanize the dogs and cats?
So for the euthanasia certification, we do pay for an outside class. We attend an outside class to get that certification because our veterinarian, I'm not aware of any veterinarian that's euthanasia certification trained locally. It's a specific license you have to carry to be able to get that certification and give that certification. But they do offer, additional training, on the job training essentially, to actually know how to perform the procedure. So they don't certify our staff, but they are available to train our staff.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what the vet does then. He's not training your staff. He can, but he
does train our staff on protocol. So I mentioned earlier the treatable illnesses that we do on site. Each of those animals has to be seen by the veterinarian. Each of those animals are administered a protocol approved by the veterinarian. So if we say, hey, a kitten has ringworm, he's like, we'll do this, this, and this, but I need to see the animal first and confirm that it's ringworm, confirm that what you're looking at. Or we say, this animal has looks like it has a gastroinfection. This animal looks like this animal tested positive for parvovirus. This animal has symptoms consistent with bordetella, upper respiratory infection. And so all of those illnesses that we are treating in-house are things that this vendor signs off on and approves and authorizes. Also, the vaccination of all animals coming in, that's under a protocol approved by this vendor. Really just anything, we are not practicing veterinary medicine. We're simply carrying out what the veterinarian has signed off for us to do. On average, Haley, how many animals would you say are on meds right now? We're not quite in our busy season, but for the last few months, what would you say you were doing daily meds on?
Right now for dogs, probably maybe 5 to 10, just again for basic things. And cats, a lot of the upper respiratory, I would say maybe 20 or more, just because of kitten season started and we do have so many kittens right now.
Right, and when we get in the thick of kitten season and puppy season, we may have as many as 60 animals a day getting twice daily medications. And so that's something that this individual is signing off on and approving and authorizing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also a state statute. It's a state law. We have to have a veterinarian on contract.
A government shelter is not required to have a contract with a veterinarian, but if we believe strongly that all animals should be vaccinated on intake. We believe strongly that treatable illnesses, affordable treatable illnesses, should receive the protocol. So we couldn't do any of that. We also wouldn't be able to euthanize without a licensed contracted veterinarian. So it's not required to have a veterinarian. Smaller jurisdictions certainly simply pay a veterinarian's fee to have their pets euthanized, and that's more affordable, but we're not required to have a contract with one. But it has been a longstanding practice of San Angelo Animal Services, at least 20 years, just my own recollection, that we do contract with a veterinarian for a variety of services.
Okay, very good.
What medications are you talking about that the vet has to give their license for?
Do you mean the controlled substance or the day-to-day?
Well, it's controlled substances,
Yeah.
antibiotics, vaccines, anything we have to buy from a vet supply house. It's his license on file to do that.
Yeah, all the vaccine, yeah, everything.
So anything over the counter we can get, like dewormer, things that just anybody can buy. Certainly, we don't have to rely on their license for that, but, anything that's ordered from a vet supply company that requires to have his license on file, it's all of those items.
Since he's not out there all the time, who secures the controlled substances and where are they secured at?
They're secured, but behind 2 locks as per state guidelines.
Inside the,
Inside the building.
okay.
Yeah, we have a safe, and so the ASO supervisor is essentially the
Holder of the log.
Yeah, he's the armorer essentially for our controlled substances, and so he issues any drugs to the euthanasia certified individuals. He reviews those logs and makes sure that they are accurate and compliant and reports back to the veterinarian. So for the day-to-day use of the controlled substances, dispensation of the controlled substances, and taking in new inventory of that, it is our ASO supervisor.
And do they, because obviously they're going to run into somebody that may need to be euthanized out in the field. Do they carry anything on their truck?
No, we do
No,
not
we
carry
don't do
any
that.
controlled substances out in the field.
So if they need to dart or anything of an animal, do they have to go back and get it?
We have the darting sedative that we use is not at that level of a controlled substance. It's a pretty low-level sedative, so it's not required to be, it's allowed to be out on the truck.
Okay.
So if a dog is going to be euthanized, it's supposed to be done at your facility and not in a truck?
Yes.
Absolutely. There's no animals euthanized in the field. So even if there's like an injured raccoon, we don't take anything with us. We have to bring that animal in-house to comply with federal law.
And they get all of the medicine from your facility and not from some other vet in town, right?
Yeah,
For
no,
the euthanasias.
we do
they're
not
in our city.
outsource euthanasias. It's the animal services staff performing euthanasias with drugs purchased with city funds under this veterinarian's license.
So if someone said that one of the city officers was over at a particular vet's office getting medicine and that wasn't the vet that's under contract, that would be incorrect, or that would just be something?
Well, we mentioned some transports earlier that the ASOs do. So if an animal, the only time that I can think of that would happen is it wouldn't be a controlled substance, and it wouldn't be for euthanasia. It would be for a situation where Contra Valley Paws did sign off on covering the advanced or emergency medical for an animal, and we transported that animal to the vet, and then when we picked it up, it was sent home with sent to the shelter with medication to administer. So it's certainly not anything for euthanasia, and it's not anything controlled.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not on the city's line item for a budget. It's through the agreement with PAWS.
Okay.
Moving on to item D. What? Pardon me?
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment?
No.
No one?
No public comment at this time.
Item D, discussion and consideration of amendments to the ordinance defining owner. Presentation made by Neighborhood and Family Services Interim Director Morgan Chinwood.
So we had discussed this at several prior meetings, talking about that, the current ordinance defines an owner as any person, firm, et cetera, who keeps, harbors, et cetera, an animal for 3 days or more. And free roaming native wildlife and community cats are exempt. There's a whole separate section defining community cat caregivers. But we've talked previously that 3 days is really prohibitive particularly in San Angelo. It's quite common throughout the nation to have such a definition, but in San Angelo, folks, I think San Angeloans are helpers. And so folks find a pet, they hold on to it for a few days, they're checking the lost and found sites, and they get deemed as being identified as the owner. And we had discussed, changing that. And we had discussed, is it 5 days, 10 days, 14 days, whatever makes sense. And so we did review this recently. So we had looked at some other organizations. We were looking at changing it to 10 days, that if you hold on to the pet for 10 days, then you would be defined as the owner. And the task force did recently come out and recommend 10 days as well. And so we're in the proposed language that that's before you is to keep everything else the same. Any person, et cetera, who harbors, keeps, or et cetera, a dog, cat, or other animal for a period of 10 days or more, then they would be defined as the owner. So if you have an animal less than 10 days, you can still participate in any kind of stray or finder services. You're not cited for that animal. You're not required to pay owner surrender fees for that animal. You still are just identified as the finder of a lost pet if it's inside of that 10 days. So that is a pretty simple change, but I think an important one.
I have a question. Why, in the last part there where it says that you're not to be deemed the owner of a custodian of an animal when the animal is a free-roaming community cat?
So community cat caregiver is the preferred language for anybody that is harboring, keeping a community cat, and it's not uncommon that community cats have as many as 3 feeders and multiple people responsible for its care. And so there was very intentional language when the community cat section of the ordinance was adopted to state that these folks were not, they still have certain requirements they have to provide for, like the cats in their care have to be spay-neutered, have to be rabies vaccinated, should be microchipped ideally, and there's a longer list of that, but they're still not identified as owner. And so that's something we're seeing, across the industry, as it's really a community cat caregiver type situation, because it's a wild thing. It's not, owned by any individual. So that's why that section is carved out as they're not the owner. There's a separate section later on in the ordinance that defines them as caregiver.
Okay, caregiver.
Which still has responsibilities. It's just,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I have a thought about the 10 days. I'm considering the fact that on the topic of barriers, working individuals who perhaps work an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday might only realistically be able to try to rehome this pet or find other accommodation on the weekends or after hours. And I'm just wondering if maybe just a standard 2 weeks would be appropriate, because that would give them 2 weekends to address the issue. And realistically, maybe only 4 days to address it if they work full time. It's just a thought that crossed my mind.
Maybe just 10 business days?
Is that what it is?
Yeah. If
it can be whatever y'all prefer.
10 business
What's before
days.
you is 10 days simply, just because, when we're closed for 4 days over the Thanksgiving holiday, the city observes a holiday that Thursday and Friday, and then we're closed Sunday, Monday. Nope, Saturday, Sunday. We recognize that, if you're a finder of a pet and you find it on Thanksgiving Day, by the time we open Monday, you've already had it more than 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that wouldn't count towards your 10 days.
Okay, gotcha.
It'll make it, you get, I don't know, it'll be more than 2 weeks if we do 10 business days.
Cool.
So there's, I guess what I'm saying is San Angelo's being a bit innovative or forward-thinking on this. This is not something I see that other communities are doing a lot of. And so we can certainly look at 10 days, 14 days. It's wide open to the committee's preference. And it'll be submitted for legal review and compared alongside what the task force recommended. There's, a lot of groups looking at the ordinances right now, but just since y'all had requested this back in January, I believe, we wanted to bring it back. It's on the slate of the number of things that we're bringing back to y'all.
And just sort of to make a point, this ordinance would not be relative to any animal that was chipped or licensed. The owner would be identified by the chip or by the license.
Well, if there is a microchipped pet that you have kept, currently ordinance, if there is a pet that is microchipped to Jen Murphy, but I have kept it for more than 3 days, I can also be identified as an owner, and she's identified as a prior owner. So if we change this to 10 days, 14 days, whatever that is, even if the pet is tagged to someone else, if you hold on to it for 14 days and you have it and you're caring for it, this ordinance does then define you as the owner.
I think we need to talk about that a little bit, because what if Jen's out of town and the dog escapes. And you find it, you really don't know, Jen. I mean, I'm not trying to reach too deep in the hole here, but you could end up with the dog for 2 weeks, and then she comes home, and her pet sitter has let the dog escape and didn't have the courage to call her. I mean, there's all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and so I think the current
come from
ordinance is
that.
particularly problematic in that circumstance, because you might not be on like a cruise to Aruba. You could just be like in Dallas for the weekend, and all of a sudden, I've had your dog for 3 days and it's mine.
Absolutely.
So by increasing it to 10 days or 14 days or whatever the committee's comfortable with, actually protects Jen's rights more. I'm sorry, we're picking on you, but just it does provide for, more opportunity for an owner to be able to retain their claim to the animal.
And to Chrysanthemum's point, the weekends need to be excluded in this somehow.
So I think you make it a simple 14 days.
Or
Because
you
10
could
days
just say
could be
10
too.
business days, and that excludes the weekend.
And that's really complicated for us, because if the animal's out in the community, are we calling it city business days? Like, what average citizen who found a pet knows the city holidays, or knows like, well, my clock is ticking, well, I should get an extra day. So I would encourage you to keep it as simple as possible, especially when the animal this is not a sheltered pet. This is a pet that, I live on Avenue L and you live on Avenue M, and I found your pet and the shelter's not involved at all and the city's not involved at all, but I kept it for 10 days, so it's mine. Well, was it 10 business days? I don't know, I'm not in business, I'm in my home. Whether the shelter opened that day or not, I found your pet, I'm keeping your pet, I had it for 10 days, it's mine. So I would encourage you to make it as simple as possible.
Well, I mean, I see your problem, and of course, I'm always looking at a different perspective. I'm thinking I have a French Bulldog and somebody likes it and they see it through my fence, and all of a sudden I'm out of town and somebody lifts my dog, and I'm trying to find it, it's chipped, because my dogs are, and I'm looking for it, and it doesn't get turned into you guys, and then 3 days go by under the old statute, and they're like, well, I'm the owner, I found this dog, I didn't know about you.
And for those,
so then there's like,
we do encourage folks to file a police report.
Yeah.
If you believe that your pet may have been stolen, file a police report so that you have that claim, because that's going to supersede anything in a city ordinance anyway.
right. I mean, I agree with you. That's what I'm thinking. Somebody, because you had that, well, they're chipped, and then you said, oh, that's the prior owner, and I thought, well, that can be problematic if you're
And I think
looking
this
at it from a
speaks to
criminal
that.
aspect.
Yeah, the current
Yeah.
ordinance is really restrictive, that
Yeah.
I find your French Bulldog, I keep it for 3 days, I was the last one to touch it, it's mine now.
Right.
Right? And that's not right, I mean, for lack of a better term, that's really problematic.
That's theft. It could be, allegedly.
Well, it could weigh, to your point, this could weigh in with a pedigree dog. I mean, there are German Shepherds for sale right now, today, somewhere.
Yeah, it can.
So you could be defined as owner in less than 10 days. This is just simply if you have harbored, kept an animal, if you have harbored or keep an animal, then you're the owner. But if you also buy a pet from a AKC registered breeder and you have a bill of sale or proof of the transaction, whatever it is, you're the owner immediately
Oh,
in
no,
30 minutes.
my point was that dogs get stolen.
Right, and this will, so that this city ordinance would never supersede theft.
Right. You've got to remember that pets are considered property under the law. And so it'd just be like if someone stole your car, and they found it a month later, it's still your car, you get it back. But this is something different. This is to do with, a life. So you take in a pet. Oh, I just found it 3 months ago. It's just hangs out here, but you've been keeping it in your fence. You've been feeding it, walking it. It's your dog. You needed to get it spayed and neutered. So that's kind of where this falls into. I think that,
To establish responsibility.
Right,
Yeah.
right, not to
Establish ownership.
ownership, yeah.
Thank you.
Does that also change the new intake into the shelter stray hold to 10 to 14 days?
We would like to bring back discussion about the hold periods, the legal hold periods for stray and owned at a different conversation. And so this would be a standalone changed item that you are defined as owner if you keep it for 14 days, if that's the preferred language. But this city shelter stray hold, it would not be changed in this very specific ordinance edit.
That's my concern, because I think that that is a realistic number, whether it's 10 or 14. But how is the public going to find their animal? I mean, somebody may find
need
a
to microchip
stray,
it.
and then they say it's not microchipped, and they may not be aggressive to find the owner. They may not be putting signs out the very next day or
Well, for our
two.
current process, you'd have about 3 months before I would have to euthanize your pet for capacity.
But I mean, if somebody is, there's a lot of people that won't look for their dog more than a week. And if somebody is holding that animal, is there I know we have the Help Me Get Home website, but I know those fall off after 2 weeks now. But if we're going to talk about the public trying to help get strays home, we need to also couple that with how they can advertise that dog, whether it's putting it on a website. I don't think that y'all have time to administer that, but if we...
Well, they are on our website. So for example, if I find Jen's dog and I keep it for 7 days and this ordinance is adopted and it has changed, and I show up at the shelter and say, hello, I found this dog 7 days ago, the shelter's still going to honor a 3-day stray hold in addition to the 7 days.
If somebody is just looking for it on their own, looking for the owner, is there, right now, what do we advise them to do if they don't register
We
it?
encourage them to participate in our Good Samaritan program, so we
Okay.
can scan it for microchip, get it through our lost and found sources, get it on social media, and to still also do the Help Me Get Home and all of that. And then, if the owner is still not identified and they're able to hold on to the pet for any amount of time, really, you've already been identified as a stray finder because you came in inside of the, right now, 3 days, in the proposal, maybe 14 days, that you're not the owner. We encourage finders of pets to connect with us on Good Sam within a couple days of finding a pet so that we can launch all of their resources to try to get it home in a timely fashion.
Okay.
While an owner is actively still right now looking for it. But it's also not uncommon that, right, we get a pet in and it's been missing for 3 months and we find the owner. So yes, I agree with you that I find a lot of people, their pet goes missing, they look for a week and then they give up. But I'm regularly not getting your pet within a week of it going missing. When people come in to claim their pet, they're never like, oh, I went to work today and it was in the backyard. It's been missing for a minute, whether a neighbor took it in, whether, whatever happened. So that's I think, a bigger conversation about how to get pets home quickly, because we're not even seeing it until it's already been, missing from the owner for a good amount of time.
Okay.
I mean, anecdotally is what I'm seeing. When people come forward for their pet and we call them, it's a rare occurrence, that they're like, oh, it was in my backyard this morning. It's more common that, oh, I've been looking for this dog for a while.
Well, okay, Kathleen, I'll ask you. Could you add, for purposes of establishing financial responsibility, any person, firm, corporation is to remain, because that's really that's the purpose of it, is to establish financial responsibility and obligation for the spay-neuter, correct?
Yes, I believe so. And I also believe that it also helps establish responsibility in situations where we're dealing with an animal that has been identified, or our office wants to go before the court and identify as a vicious animal, or usually a dog, identify that, as well as maybe in regards to going before the court to request for a seizure warrant for a dog or animal that we believe is being cruelly treated. So it does establish responsibility, as you indicated, financially, and also in those other aspects as well.
Yeah, for a broad range of things, that appropriate care, secure enclosure, rabies vaccine, microchips, spay, neuter, just all of the things required to care for a pet.
So I think that we could, to encompass all of the aspects, we could clarify that the owner or the caretaker or the person harboring the dog, as such, it's for the establishment of identifying responsibility.
Well, I think it would clear up some of our questions here, where somebody could use that ordinance, say, oh, no, that's my dog, I've had it that long, whatever. As long as you qualify, the purpose of this ordinance is for this, and the reason we are establishing this definition is for this purpose. I mean,
Yes.
more work for you, but I think it would help clarify some things.
Yes, no, I think that is an excellent point, and that is something that we perhaps should take a look at, considering clarifying that it is establishing responsibility in the many aspects that we've discussed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if this committee is, makes a motion to take action on change, our next steps would be to submit it for legal review, to submit the draft for legal review. And once the city attorney's office has language that they are confident in, then it would go to city council for 2 readings for approval, for consideration and possible approval.
Because it wasn't established to help people steal. It was, to go around being called a thief. It was to avoid finders that are trying to help, to not have them stuck with owning a dog or cat. But that was what originally we talked about this for, is to avoid the finder, the Good Samaritan, to be stuck with these animals that they're trying to help. Yeah.
No responsibility.
That's, I think they'll look at it when they go to word it legally that way to avoid.
I apologize, but I must go.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Do we need a motion to have them reevaluate and relook at that language?
Yes, if y'all were willing to make a motion to approve this language with the period of 14 days, if that's the direction we're going.
Have we settled on 14 days?
It was just a recommendation.
Well, yeah, but we'll need a motion to, as Morgan just said, we'll need a motion for the recommendation.
So I think
alter the
you
recommendation.
make the motion and get everybody's temperature.
I like 10 business days. I think that's
I think I do
appropriate.
too. I think I like 10 also.
Is that a first and a second?
Because it to incentivize people to
move one way or the other.
get something done. I mean,
Can we take that as
So
a first
do
and a
we have-
second?
Then we have a motion to modify the ordinance as it's presented to us from 10 days to 14?
No, to 10, instead of 10 simple days, 10 business days. I believe. Am I appropriately categorizing that?
10 business days.
I don't know about the 10 business days. I hear where y'all are coming from, but also I heard Morgan's point of like it could just complicate things, make it a little more complicated.
I mean,
If I understood that correctly, of
Yeah.
like a person.
But if that's
who-
what y'all are comfortable with, I mean, anything is progress, anything's an improvement. So, staff will certainly do whatever.
Business days is a defined,
business
there's a
weeks.
definition to that, and that would be holidays and
10
weekends.
flat out. 10 flat, 10 business, okay.
Yeah, because that's
Okay.
2 full weeks. So
So what do we have a motion for?
I will make a motion for 10 business days to define.
Do I hear a second?
Jadon already seconded that.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor of amending the ordinance defining owner to 10 business days? Say aye.
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 Any public comment?
We do, yes, and we'll start with Heather Hegwood.
Heather Hegwood, single member District 2. And the task force already has this exact same thing before, with the city attorneys, I believe, with the language of 10 business days. I think, right?
I'm
Maybe?
sorry, what was your question?
The task force already has this before or has this in your office for 10 days?
So-
This ordinance amendment?
Perhaps, I'm not
Okay.
sure. Thank you.
Okay, so for this ordinance. Then I have a question about the language, a person, firm, corporation, company, or association should not be deemed the owner or custodian of an animal when the animal is free-roaming native wildlife or a free-roaming community cat. The cats that are at Angelo State University belong to Angelo State University, and that is a state property within the city of San Angelo. So are you saying then that the cats, the community cats, don't belong to Angelo State?
I'm not, I'm certainly not. We are not
What is this?
amending
What is-
anything about the
No,
free
what is-
roaming community cat language.
Well, okay, proposed language, the second paragraph.
It's the same
Shall-
as the existing
Shall not be
language.
deemed the owner.
That's unchanged from the
No,
existing
proposed, the proposed language,
is unchanged from the existing language.
that's unchanged?
Correct.
It's just the first paragraph that you're wanting to change.
We're changing one
So,
word.
3 days
From
to 10
three.
days. Okay.
We're changing 2 words, from 3 to 10
Right, to
business.
10.
That's the
Okay.
only edit.
Okay, I thought you were changing the second one. It's like, wait a minute, those cats belong to ASU, so they are the owners of those cats, the cat colony that's there. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have one more public comment with Juliana.
I'm wondering how you're going to monitor the 10 working day period. Are you going to take people on their word, or will they need to register on the first day they find an animal that they have found an animal, and they don't want to pop down and fill out a form to be a good Sam, but they're just, who will they advise that they have an animal to stop the clock on their potential ownership of that animal after 10 days? You said community cats have to be spayed, but they don't have owners, so I'm wondering how you can possibly prosecute someone for not spaying or neutering a cat they don't own, given that you've said they don't own them. And I also see that a financial impact of this was put on the paperwork as decreased owner surrender fee income, and I haven't ever seen an owner surrender fee listed anywhere easily locatable. And I'm wondering whether an owner surrender fee makes people less likely to own a surrender to the shelter rather than just go and dump the animal on the street, possibly unspayed, unneutered, and thus adding to the problem that we have, and whether those things are considered or addressed anywhere. Thank you.
Any further public comment?
No more public comment.
Well, move on to follow-up administrative issues. Jatan?
I think some information more on, I'd like to put something on the agenda for discussion and possible action for the rights, the proper procedure for each case, whether it's a bite case, you're probably going to call 911 if, you get a dog attack. But for a dog that's been roaming for a couple of days in your neighborhood, or say it showed up Friday evening and Saturday it's become a problem, all of the sequences of where is best to report, at what time, and then also, I know somebody said something about possibly having a picture on the online reporting for stray dogs, and then also the review of how those are addressed, how quickly. I'd like to see something on that so I'd know where the public needs to go to first. but also knowing the sequence of if you report it online, or if it's after hours, what happens? Is it just wait until the next day? Something along those lines. I'd like to know more about that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Since there was public comment after the vote on the City Code of Ordinance definition on owner, did the committee members want to go back and make the motion and vote again after hearing the public comment related to that motion? There was public comment after your vote, and so I didn't know if you wanted to go back and take a vote in regards to the City Code of Ordinance definition change?
I thought we did. I thought we had.
Normally, you would take public comment before you vote, so you would take
We
public comment.
just need to vote
then-
again.
I
Yeah.
thought I asked. Maybe I didn't.
You asked after you voted, so normally it
Okay.
would be before. That's what Kathleen's getting to.
Thank you.
So we just,
Thank
do
you.
we need to vote again?
I believe that would be proper. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So do I need to ask for motions again?
Yes.
So I'm requesting a motion and a second to modify the ordinance defining owner from 10 days to 10 business days.
I'll make the motion to modify it to 10 business days.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Back to our, I have one issue that I would like to maybe put on an agenda coming up, and it's just like to open the discussion for a adoption coordinator's position, either internally or a new position for the animal services, for animal services for San Angelo. Are there any other follow-up or administrative issues? If there are none, then we will call for adjournment. Oh, yeah, moved.
Second.